Hello and welcome to this video where we are going to review how we created the effects and the shading for Ghislaine from the Mushoku Tensei anime series. So in this opportunity, I want to thank every one of these patrons because they make this possible. They make this content really good so that everyone can enjoy it as well. Don't forget that they get this content first, they also get files, and they have access to other posts that are very helpful to produce anime in Blender. So let's start. We have here Ghislaine, and the shading that we have here right now, it's the PBR traditional shading. Okay, I wanted to make this to look as a toy, so that's why I created this light setting, very much like a toy illumination setup. Okay, so let's talk about what makes this character distinctive from the other characters that we have shown previously in the other training series. Because right now, this is a totally different character. This is not a fighting character from Guilty Gear or from Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, but we are applying everything that we have covered from the previous trainings into this marvelous design character. So right here I'm creating directly the specular light as a mesh. Okay, it doesn't have to be a polygon, tris or quads. It's an end gun, and it's okay because this is going to be weighted with the bones or parented with weights when we are doing the rigging. Yes, we are rigging this character for April's reward. So you basically are going to get a posable figure, let's call it that way, a posable figure fan art of this warrior cat girl. Of course, you already know the name, so let's continue. This is the top view for the eye, and right here, one of the mistakes I see often do in other characters that try to simulate the anime style is that they do perfectly round, perfectly oval shapes for the eyes. You may want to consider deforming it just a little bit so that it will look imperfect. You can see here in this close-up that the eyes really look very hand-drawn because of the way the original design is, and as you can see they are kind of chopped and bent, and this is what we want to simulate on her eyes. Another thing that it's important to consider, it's the space between the eyelashes and the white sclera, the white of the eye. Okay, so we want to fill that with a specific black material in this case, and you have to model the things. For example, in this little corner right here of the eye, you will model the things that you want to show when you're rendering. You basically are doing a version where every vertex that you draw, it's going to actually define the color and the shape of your character, so that when you subdivide it just by one level, you don't want to subdivide it by two, you want to subdivide it by one, like Control 1, that will apply a modifier with one level subdivision. You want all of this to remain exactly as it is right now. So let's talk about the highlights on the hair. Let's continue with this method, creating end guns directly in front of the hair. And when they are parented to the rig, all of these hairs are going to be one single mesh, except that these highlights are going to have a different material, and that's something that makes the Grand Blue Fantasy Verse special. Like we reviewed in Jewel video, preview video actually, because I have all of those videos ready to be edited, but guys, I cannot find any more time in the day. Like it's already 6 a.m. in the morning. I have been editing this video all night long so that you can get it, and right now it's a very busy hour here because around where I live there is an industrial traffic, we can say that, industrial traffic. The cars go and come, so it's very noisy right now. So I beg your pardon if you hear loud car noises. Let's go for the hair modeling. We've been talking about this for a long time now, and everyone asking how do you do hair? Well, I have this method right here, which is probably something that you can apply to your workflow as well. But I seriously recommend that you start from a a cone and then subdivide that cone in small parts. For example, 4 or 8 subdivisions. Um, Loop cuts is what I meant. Okay, so then you can join them together and start creating the spikes. Because this character, I picked it because it has the spiky hair, which is prominent in most of the anime characters that we see, either on girls or on boys. They tend to have this spiky hair. So this is what we're going to be working in. Now, on the upper part, you're going to see right here the card that will take you to my previous video about perfect anime hair, in which I talk about how you can optimize your anime hair so that you don't end up with gazillion polygons. You want to optimize the number of polygons you're creating for hair. Now I'm going to show you what I do, what works for me. Probably this doesn't work for you, but what works for me is to create one vertex, one single vertex, and then place it over here where the hair is going to be. Now the general idea, as you can see with the references that I have on the right side, it's to start at the top of the center of the head, because all of the parts of the hair that it's going to flow to the back of this character, it's just like one single mesh. Okay, so that's how we want to treat it. Of course, if you want and you have the available time, you can strand and create each back hair like we saw in the previous comic previous comic reference that I have right here, almost in the middle part of the right side, and that's going to be our reference. So the first thing you want to do is to really optimize the curve guide, which are those little circles that you see up there. So I'm going to start modeling. Okay, just think flat 2D drawing. This is one of the things that I really like about Blender, because you can activate the F2 mesh add-on, which is native into Blender, and then you select one vertex, and then you press E, and then it will automatically go into translate mode. See, that's the heavy truck I told you about, and there will be more. This is just starting. I'm sorry. So let's continue. And from here, what we want to imagine, or what we want to project in this, it's the volume. So to get the volume, we need to continue to extrude vertices and also edges. So right now, let's see. I'm going to draw, so you can have the general idea of what you're going to do. I'm going to press the letter D, and with the letter D, I'm going to get to draw. And this is exactly the volume that we need to create. Therefore, my guide, as always, it's the volume of the hair. So in my case, I'm going to start at the top of the head, and then I'm going to do the extrusion all the way down until I reach the far or the lowest part of the hair. So I want to select this, extrude it, join it. Of course, you already know all those shortcuts, but if in case that you don't know it, make sure that you leave your questions down in the comment section below, so that everyone here in the community can help you as well, because probably you're watching this video, you're just discovering my channel, and you don't really know who I am or what we do. But just so that we are all in the same page, my name is Pierre Schiller, and I have been a Blender Foundation certified trainer for the past 3 years. But this year specifically, I am dedicating a lot of this series, video series, to create anime content in Blender. And of course, we want to go and check the shading, check the modeling, so that you can also have your characters created in this style, which is in real time. That means that you don't need a long time to render, but instead you can model them, or in this case, if you decide to become my patron, you will get files that can help you work with this. You can open them, they are fully commented, all of the shading tree is fully commented, and that's one of the advantages, that you get video insights first of all. Okay, so we have our main guideline for the hair volume. So we want to move these vertices around so we can get a solid view, and this is looking good. Now, as you can imagine, we are going to continue to draw, or rather extrude, other lines from the main top of the head. That is the natural flow of the hair. And if you want to have your character look like this one, you might consider as well starting from the hair root at the top. Now my original idea with this character was to create one solid piece from everything that is her hair at the top of her head. That includes the ears. So in my head, I imagined, maybe I should just include the ears with one solid piece with the back hair. But then I thought, you know what? Let's just leave the hair and the ears separate. So this is the part that I was talking about earlier on how to create the spikes. You want to have in your mind the figure of a cone, right? So the base is going to be obviously at the hair base, and then you're going to spike out, and you want to model something like that. Now if it's something very difficult for you, I would recommend that you start with a cone and then select the hair and then press Ctrl J so that the geometry becomes one, and then you can start manipulating the vertices to make them look like this. This is why I have two screens running at the same time. The left screen is the previous step and the right screen is the after step. I wasn't going to, put this as a time lapse too long, so I decided to grab the entire time of modeling in half, and then the left side is the previous minutes, and then the right side is the after or completed minutes. So you can put pause and bring this back anytime you want. So right here on the left side of the screen, you can see that I am continuing to model the shape, the original base. It's finished at the right side, and from there you need to connect it to the hair. Again, we are thinking here in poly loops. This is a specific word that I was looking for, the poly loops. You want to create loops around your cone, in this case the spike, so that the hair can connect itself like I am doing here. And you also want to work in quads whenever you're working with these kind of things. Now, Mr. Schiller, what happens if I don't make it, or if I make tries? Doesn't matter. I play this nice little game where I imagine myself completing a maze in quads, and every time I complete a quad, new trees appear, trigons appear. So my mission is to complete another quad from those tries. It gets really fun on time because this entire process took me, let's say, 4 hours to complete. And this was originally thought to be live streamed, but then I noticed that this takes too much time. But like I mentioned before, if you don't want to do this, everything I'm doing here, maybe this works for you, maybe it doesn't work for you. You can work with cones and then join them with Ctrl J to your mesh, in this case the hair, and that's how you can have cones faster. Now as you can see, she has underwear, a bikini, and the pants are on top. The pants are slightly open, and in this viewport capture I was working with cycles with the denoiser on my Titan X graphics card, which you can see it's already showing its age. So we're switching here render engines, because one thing that I've noticed that some of you don't like to work with Eevee, it's because you don't get the light bounces. But you can Shift+a Light probe, and then you can configure here light bake, and what that's going to do, it's going to pick up everything that the ambience has as materials, lights, bounces, some of the reflections also, and then they are going to be baked or projected into this light probe. So that means that you're going to catch real light bounces depending on the bounces settings that you have where it says light bake. So here again we're back on cycles, and there's not much difference. I'm going to speed up this part of the video because it really took long time to work with cycles and denoise. So as you can see, it looks good, but it doesn't look that much different from the Eevee version. So if you don't mind the slight probably light bleed, like it's very interesting, very realistic. If you don't mind that, then you can go back into the Eevee version and look at it like this. So I'm going to be talking about this new add-on that probably most of you don't or haven't seen before. You're going to install it as every other add-on from the Edit, User Preferences, Add-on, Install. It's called UV Squares, and what we're going to do with UV Squares is to kind of flatten the hair. But we're going to do that ahead, okay? Let's talk about the UV cuts, because most of you I've seen are not quite used to cut a human being, okay? To texturize it, not to cut it with, swords or any kind of dangerous weapon. No, what we're talking about here, it's a technique that can help you to quickly open the UVs for your character. So you select a seam, in this case an edge, and then you're going to mirror it with selection, mirror selection, and that is going to be reflected onto the other side. Now you press Ctrl E after doing that selection, and then you select mark seams. You can put pause on the video and then you can see how it works. Okay, so this is kind of our completed or a work in progress UV seams. So what we want to do is to emulate real cloth. That's the best way I can put it. That's the way I learned. For example, here in the hands, let's imagine that you have a glove. Gloves have seams exactly in the middle of the hand, like I'm doing here. So that's what you want to try. You want to take a look at the real life clothes that you have, and then try to simulate those same seam patterns for your human character. And sure enough, you're going to select everything, press U, and then unwrap. And in your UV editor, you're going to see how the body parts turn. And depending on the orientation, we can create, for example, a material, then select or create a new checker texture, and put it to the surface of the material so that you can see it on the viewport. And what's the mission of this? The mission or the purpose of this is to visualize how big or how small or how deformed are your UVs. We don't want any UVs to be deforming, so we want to check it with the checker textures. So I'm going to also create another material for the clothes. And we have this specific tool that I have highlighted on the left side, which is the tear or rip tool for UVs in other applications, as they call it. So what's the idea? We wanted to make a higher quality or higher detailed zone for the stomach, for the abdominals of the girl, and therefore we scaled it so that it could be big. At the time of painting, the texture will show with a lot of details. Now let's talk about UVing hair. This is important. We want to run a cut from the top all the way to the bottom, like you're seeing right now. Okay, and we want to have exactly this, what we have right here. When you seam and when you do the cut, we want to have a light zone, which is going to be the top part of the hair, versus the dark tone that is going to be the lower part of the hair. So let's separate that. Let's do it again so that you can see. I'm going to pick this part right here, okay, all the way down, and then from the other side I'm going to also pick it so that I have a full loop. And once I have the full loop, I can select this part right here and delete it, like the base part. You don't need that, you can delete that, and then press U and then unwrap, and you're going to get two sides of the hair. That is what we want, because at the moment of painting, we want to paint the lower part in complete dark color, like in black, and the top part is going to be whatever the hair color is. But we're going to be using masks, okay? That's what we've been showing in the previous training, in the Guilty Gear XR training with my character Fixie, and it works for every other character as well. You want to create a dark zone of a mask texture that is a black and white texture so that you can use it as a factor later on when we're mixing colors. And this is just a beauty to watch. Look at that. Everything is correctly textured, and you can see right here we're going to use the square UVs. So I have selected this strand of hair, and then I'm going to press this align to grid, and automatically I get it square. Let's do that with the darker part. I'm going to select it all and then click here. It automatically aligns as a UV square, and that is what we want. And notice, please notice that distortion has been fixed at the tip of the hair. Okay, that's before and that's after. You're going to check out now the time lapse for all of this, because what we want is to separate each strand that is facing at the top from the strand that is looking at the bottom from the same strand. Okay, so every dark strand for this purpose is going to be aligned all the way to the left. As you're seeing the UVs overlap, that zone is going to specifically be marked as the shadow zone. In this case, we're going to paint that fully black, as you're seeing in this time lapse. So we have shorter strands, lengthier strands, thinner strands, and you can adjust it as you go here in the viewport. That's the beauty of working in real time. That you can adjust everything and you know exactly what the results are going to be. Again, if you have any kind of questions, and I hope you do, please don't forget to write down here in the comment section below, and everyone here in the community will be happy to help you. We are almost 12K users, and I'm very happy for that, and it's all because of you that keeps me motivated to create all of these video tutorials, as well as all of the patrons that are supporting this channel. It really means a lot. It really goes a long way, because it is thanks to you guys that I feel motivated to continue to do this. I really hope that all of these video series, all of the training series that we've been presenting throughout the years help you in your content. It will make me really happy to see any kind of content you create. You know, give it a try. Blender is fantastic. Every day it's bringing new tools to the table, and it works for our production. And let's talk about vertex colors. That's another thing that a lot of you asked me, and I know I offered to do a live stream about this, but I'm going to explain it right now. So we traditionally paint with a texture, right? And then you assign that to a material, and then you can paint everything you need in the texture so that the texture will look, you know, as you want it. Specifically for anime characters, you're going to directly paint the shadow. This is true for all the virtual YouTubers that are out there. You know, they are created this way. You kind of paint the shadow directly on the texture surface. So what we want to do here is to add this interesting UV painter or UV textures. No, I'm sorry. Vertex colors. Okay, vertex colors add-ons. I'm going to be leaving every link to these add-ons down here in the video description, so you make sure to read that. So once you install that, you're going to open the Vertex Paint workspace, and let's contract this. Let's retract this. As you can see, that the first time you open the Vertex Paint, you're going to be greeted with a white color. So if you come down here, you're going to see Vertex Paint EX, which is awesome, an awesome tool made by an awesome artist. I know him for years. He does a lot of anime stuff in Blender, and he developed this tool. So I'm very happy to present it to you, and you can, you know, use to your advantage. It's open source, it's great, it works marvelously. So what we're doing here is to press the fill button, which previously needs to have something selected. And you can do that either on the vertex paint mode using the little selection tool, or you can come here into edit mode and select the faces that you're interested in. Either way will work. I'm going to do it from the edit space, edit mesh mode. So here I'm going to select all of these triangles that I have right here, and then I'm going to press fill. To initialize this tool, you need to first apply the vertex mask. He calls it the vertex mask. I don't know why, because in reality it's vertex color paint, but that's the way it is. So I'm going to keep on selecting other zones that I specifically modeled. And if you can see, these shapes in the pants, like these triangulated shapes, have been thought fruitfully before creating the model. I know that the zones that are really tight do this kind of shape. Okay, so let's continue. You can also use the vertex paint add-on to create an outline, or simulated outline, if we can say it so, by selecting all the points that are the context of the volume of your mesh, in this case our pants. So I'm going to select all of that, and then I'm going to select the color, then I'm going to push fill. And as you can see, I immediately have sort of an inner line and also an outline depending of your view. So how do we use this? This is really important because a lot of you also ask me about this. So now that we have created our vertex color, let's rename them. I'm going to call this with this name right here in the vertex property of the object. And then I'm going to add a diffuse material, a diffuse shader, I'm sorry. And I am also going to add a shader to RGB. We have renamed our body vehicle property for the vertex color. We're going to be adding also the light, because we need a light threshold. This is going to work with the shader, detecting the light direction, or the light angle in this case. And we're going to change the color ramp into a constant interpolation, and then connect the vertex color into the diffuse, into the shader to RGB, into the color ramp. And that's all for the shader to get the light threshold. And now let's select the light and change its properties as well. So let's give it this angle, and let's play just a little bit with the strength. Now don't forget that the world also affects how your character is illuminated. Even though it's not reacting, because it's animation shader, it is not reacting directly to the bounces of the light. It will react to the environment of the light. So the lighter the environment, the highlights that you're going to create around the body are going to be higher. Okay, so this is all what makes the light threshold. So we are limiting, or rather, where's our our starting point. It's going to be the vertex color. So I'm going to select this parts here in the belly, and then I'm going to press fill so that they can be of one same color. Now I don't want this too dark, so I'm going to switch it just a little bit to a grayish color, so that you can see the material under, because later on we're going to multiply this against the original texture. So I'm going to select all of this to continue defining the abs. Let's go back to vertex paint, and then I am going to fill, or assign, the vertex color. I'm going to create a vertex color node property. We're going to rename this vertex color from the, I think this is the hair. This is going to be called the hair V color. Okay, so everything that we do there with the vertex paint is going to affect the shadows and the lights, because we're going to connect this to a diffuse BSDF. That is going to be connected to a shader to RGB, the shader to RGB to a ramp node, and finally an emission node, like you're seeing right here. So check it out, it looks perfect. Now you're seeing the light being limited, or rather tinted black, from the vertex color, and that's how you use it. There's no more mystery on that. So let's go back into our texture paint for the rest of the hair, for the front part of the hair. Remember that we made a separation between the top part of any strand of hair and the lower part. And the lower part was sent to be overlapped with the other darker part, like you see right here. And that was painted black. Now we're going to use that texture, and as you can see, it gives the desired result, which is that the lower part of any part of this mesh for the hair, for the front hair, it's going to be painted dark or painted black. And we're going to use directly the color texture here. Now the interesting thing here is that we're going to use the color of the texture in this front part of the hair. But at the back part of the hair, we're going to use the vertex color plus natural procedural colors or RGB colors, not a texture, RGB colors, and it will still work. As you can see here, you can adjust the ramp parameter, the ramp node, for the back part of the hair, and then you can have this stylized kind of a half lambre-ish shader. It gives good results, but I really like my thresholds to be really sharp, so I'm going to leave them here. You can change them, of course, because you will be getting the original file. And this model finally can be shared because it's going to be shared as fan art, and that is cool. Now let's talk about normal editing. In case that you're new to the channel, I need you to go and find in Google the BNPR AB Normal add-on for Blender, AB Normal version 1, as you can see right here. You can put pause on the video, check the links in the description, in the video description below for the download. Okay, so you're going to go to Edit, User Preferences, Add-ons, then you're going to target that add-on and save your preferences to activate it. Press N in the viewport, and then you're going to come down all the way here to this last tab where it says AB Normal. Now you're going to click Start Editor, and whatever your viewport view is, that's where you're going to be locked to have this interface so that you can switch your normals around. So we're going to investigate how the normals in this face are. So now I'm going to select, you can read the instructions on the right side of the panel that you have right here on how to select and deselect in this mode. So I'm going to be selecting all of these things right here. And now that I have selected them, I'm going to press 3, and then I'm going to retract all of these panels because we don't need them. And now I'm going to align all of that normals, all of those normals looking to the right, straight to the right. And I know that is -Y, and that's why I press -Y. Now I'm going to mirror it over the x-axis because I know for this axis that I have right here pointing in the red arrow where I want them to be reflected, and that is the mirror, onto the other side. Now let's do that for the nose as well. I'm going to pick them here because as you can see they are very scattered. I don't want that. I want the straight down normal. And to do that, I know that the top is Z, so -Z will be down. So I'm going to press that button, and then automatically all of my normals became down pointing normals. Then I'm going to click on mirror normals onto the x-axis, and sure enough, my nose is already looking much better because I have edited this. Now another important part in editing normals, it's a cascade size for shadows. That parameter that you have right here, you need to play around to know which one is the best choice for you. Because right now we're on solid view, but when you go into render view, that shadow is going to get cached, screen effect cached, yeah, let's call it that way. And that's why you see dented shadows, you see streaks, you see artifacts, you see things that you should not be seeing. But if you adapt the cube size and the cascade size plus soft shadows sometimes, that will fix the problem. And in our final step, check it out. Now we're mixing the entire textures with the work that we previously did and with the shading that we also set up for the light threshold. And therefore, we're getting this nice feedback for the different materials, for the different parts of this model. Either the hair, the body, the sandals, or the pants. Now the pants are a very interesting case because we're going to mix all of the three techniques that we have. We're going to mix the texture against the vertex color. We're going to edit the color of the vertex color so that it will tint it with a multiply node, mix RGB, set to multiply, like you're seeing right here. And I'm going to sample directly the color, or approximately rather, the color that she has on the original anime design pants. Now let's go for the sandals, and as you can see, they have also been UV'd. So now I'm going to also assign the sandals VCol, everything that's got a name, and then VCol, it's the vertex color of that object property. Now, as most of you know, Blender 2.93 has these outlines, or rather lines, via grease pencil. I tried that, but it became too slow, so I'm switching on to the traditional method that we have to do the inverted hull method with a very thin thickness. Okay, so you can put pause on the video. Right now I'm selecting the hair, Control L to select all of the other hairs that do not have, or rather that do have the effect apply, and then I'm copying the materials, and I'm copying the modifiers. And I want to exclude this, so I'm going to create an entire vertex group for the body, and then I'm going to remove these zones that I don't want the outline to affect, like the internal eyes and stuff, or the eyelashes. Now, as you can see, the ears were kind of bluish, and also the eye patch. So I'm going to create a black and white texture here in Photoshop, and then I'm going to use that black and white texture as a factor to exclude, as we have seen on the Grand Blue Fantasy Versus models, to exclude the light affecting the zone for the ears and the eye patch. And we know this is the right way to go, because we previously multiplied the texture times a bluish tint. So that's why we're getting that kind of feedback. So I'm going to be renaming this as such. You can put pause on the video, or you can go to the original file and check it out for yourself. And here we go. We have Ghislaine finished completely. Ghislaine the Doldia, master of the sword. So anyways, this is everything that I wanted to show you, and I'm very happy for the results. Don't forget that we will be working with geometry nodes plus other techniques, and also we are going to be rigging this character, finishing her sword, and all of that is going to be April's reward. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification button, and thank you very much for your support. As always, you can get the longer version of this video, almost 40 minutes in length, at my Patreon, as every other file that you're seeing here. I upload the short version, so you can decide if you want to get the full 40 minutes or just watch this sneak preview for the length of this video. Thank you very much. Try Blender. Blender is powerful and beyond industry compatible.